versus no way.
Good evening. Welcome to the May 12th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting. Call the roll.
Bauman,
Here?
Kibler, Offerdahl,
Here.
Pontanila. Here. Trudeau,
Here.
Wolf, Amick, Doctor, Ziegler,
Here.
Reich,
Here.
Parker,
Here.
Goodman. Here. We have a quorum.
Okay, with that, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, moving on. Agenda item number 4, approval of the April 14th, 2026 regular meeting minutes.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, motion to approve by Vice Chair Bauman, second by Commissioner Ziegler. Any discussion? Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, call the roll.
Bauman,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes.
Pontanila,
Yes.
Trudeau,
Yes.
Amick,
Yes.
Ziegler,
Yes.
Reich,
Yes.
Parker, Goodman. Yes. Motion carries.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 5.1, Olney 3rd Edition, preliminary plat, public hearing request by Corey and Tracy Olney, owners for a request of a zoning map amendment from R1 Single Family Residential District to AG District and a preliminary plat. Legal description for the property is Lot 1, Olney Addition, Lot 2, Olney 2nd Addition to the City of Minot. Property address is 2815 27th Street Southeast. That will turn it over to staff for finding and report.
Chairman Offerdahl, members of the commission, here we see our subject property bound in black with the 600-foot notification area in pink. It is southeast of the city of Minot and the extraterritorial zoning jurisdiction. What their applicant is proposing here is a property line adjustment, but the two properties he wants to adjust the line between have two different zoning districts, pushing them into a major plat process and a zoning map amendment. So here we can see the plat as presented by the applicant. You can almost not even see it. It's just a tiny little line that's being adjusted. That dashed line. That is the property line adjustment. The larger lot, however, is zoned ag, and the smaller lot is zoned R1. So that pushes us into a zoning map amendment. Adjacent, you have agricultural and M1 zoned properties. The future land use designation for the entire property is suburban residential. You also have ag and open space, rural residential, general commercial, light industrial, and parks and recreation adjacent. Here you can see an aerial photo of the home and the outbuilding. The reason for the request is they would like to add an addition to that outbuilding. You can see the concrete slab that's been poured to the north of that property. They'd like to build out the roof over that slab, and that would bring them too close to the property line to meet agricultural setback of 35 feet. So they are adjusting the property line to meet setback. Here again, you can see the property facing east. There's another view from the south. You can see the concrete slab they intend to build over. Here is staff finding of fact. It can be found in staff's written report. The Minot Planning Commission has the authority to hear this case, provide recommendation to the City Council on whether it should be approved or denied. Staff does recommend that the Planning Commission adopt staff finding of fact and recommend approval to the City Council for a zoning map amendment from R1 Single Family Residential to Ag Agricultural District, and that the Planning Commission recommend approval of the preliminary plat, Olney's 3rd Edition, without conditions. And with that, I will stand for questions.
Thank you. Any discussion or any questions for city staff? Any questions? Okay, with that, I'll open a public hearing. Anybody in attendance wishes to speak on behalf of this agenda item? Anybody wish to speak on behalf? Anybody wish to speak in opposition to this agenda item? Anybody for or against? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and I'll turn it over to the commissioners for a motion.
I'll move to approve based on staff recommendations and finding of fact.
I'll second.
Okay, so we had a motion approved by Vice Chair Bauman, second by Commissioner Amick. Any discussion? Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, call to roll.
Bauman,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes.
Pontanila,
Yes.
Trudeau,
Yes.
Amick,
Yes.
Ziegler,
Yes.
Reich,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Goodman. Yes. Motion carries.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 5.2. Public hearing request by Curtis Freeman, KLJ Engineering, representing BK Properties LLC, owner for a request of a preliminary plat. Legal description for the property is Lot 2, Block 1, Yurges, second edition, and Lot 2, Yurges, third edition, the city of Minot. Subject property address is 3820 and 3850 38th Street Southeast. And I apologize if I butchered that last name, or that.
Uriah's.
Okay. Okay, my fault.
It's all right.
With that, we'll turn it over to staff for finding and report.
All right, Chairman Offerdahl, members of the commission, again, we find our subject property bound in black and the 600-foot notification area denoted in pink. It is located west of Minot in our extraterritorial zoning jurisdiction, and all they are proposing is a preliminary plat to subdivide the property. Here we can see the preliminary plat for Uriah's 4th edition. They are looking to subdivide into 4 lots from 2 lots existing. The reason why this one was pushed into a preliminary and major plat is because the property is, there's no existing subdivision, so they need to create a subdivision in order to subdivide further. The current zoning of the property is R1. There is agricultural, general commercial, mobile home, and rural residential properties adjacent. The future land use designation for almost this entire area is rural residential. There is also ag and open space with some light industrial. Here we can see a satellite photo or an aerial photo of the property. It is, at this point, pretty much vacant properties. Photos. There you can see the what will be the access easement, and the access for the properties once they are subdivided is that existing dirt gravel driveway. Here is staff finding of fact that can be found in staff's written report. Planning Commission has the authority to hear this case and recommend whether it should be approved or denied with or without conditions. Staff is recommending that Planning Commission adopt staff finding of fact and recommends City Council approve the major subdivision preliminary plat for Uriah's 4th edition without conditions. With that, I will stand for questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for city staff? Vice Chair Bauman.
Since we're moving along fairly at a good clip, I'm going to ask you, Mr. Diedrichson, if you can do maybe a little bit of public education for anyone who might be watching online or for any of our other commissioners. This is the second case now that we've had the extraterritorial jurisdiction mentioned, and I'm wondering if you can just maybe do a quick 30-second overview for the general public. Why does the state of North Dakota give a community or a city like Minot an ETJ 2-mile range to approve or deny projects like this?
Chairman Offerdahl, Vice Chair Bauman. So the extraterritorial zoning jurisdictions are given to each city based on population. It's either 1 mile or 2 miles. The city of Minot is large enough that we can exercise 2 miles of extraterritorial. I recently did a map for City Council, and if you saw that presentation, you can see that we don't exercise the entire 2 miles in most cases. There are areas that we do, mostly along our major transportation corridors, just because it's important to make sure that we are using that, those properties wisely and planning ahead for future major transportation projects adjacent to those roadways. But the reason why it is given to cities is it's supposed to be a growth area. This is where the city plans to grow into. And so you want the development that takes place in those areas to match closely to this development that's happening within the city. It allows for seamless growth and expansion of infrastructure. If roads aren't being constructed to the city standard, it's difficult for us to then go and put our city infrastructure into it. So as we grow, so does our infrastructure, so does our services. And in order to provide adequate services to properties as they're annexed and brought into the city, they need to be developed in such a way that we can seamlessly do that and integrate them into our existing infrastructure for the city, the larger city.
Thanks. I appreciate that. So kind of in theory, just thinking hypothetically and asking hypothetically, if we were to cede that right or give up that right as a city, we could potentially be hemming ourselves in or creating some really expensive growth in the future if we don't kind of keep that right and make sure that our ETJ grows at the same rate and in the same direction or kind of momentum as the rest of our city.
Chairman Offerdahl, Vice Chair Bauman, that is, they were able to bring up my map for me. So you can see there are several areas, most notably northeast of the airport in the southwest and southeast sides of town where we have not exercised that entire 2 mile. But yes, it could potentially cost a lot of money because if we annex properties into the city, then we have to provide them with city services. And if large projects need to be done on the roads and infrastructure to make them capable of the city supporting them with infrastructure, that could cost more money in the future because you're then tearing out the infrastructure that was developed to replace it with infrastructure that meets our requirements. That is the goal, ultimately, is to plan outward for growth and think of it holistically and not just inside of city limits, but where will we be next and making sure that development meets the standards once it does come into the city so that it doesn't cost more money in the future.
Cool. So it's kind of a forward-looking thing and a way to make sure that we're all moving forward in the same direction. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Any additional questions for city staff? Okay, seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. Anybody in attendance that wishes to speak on behalf of this agenda item? Please step up to, if we could just,
Yes, he is subdividing into four lots.
okay, anybody who wishes to speak in opposition to this agenda item? Now is the public hearing. Anybody wish to speak for or against? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, turn it over to commissioners for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second.
Got a motion to approve by Commissioner Ziegler, second by Commissioner Trudell. Any discussion? Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, call roll.
Bauman,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes.
Pontanila,
Yes.
Trudeau,
Yes.
Amick,
Yes.
Ziegler,
Yes.
Reich,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Goodman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 5.3, public hearing request by Rob Berard, Ackerman Surveying, representing Post 1 Properties, owners for a request of a zoning map amendment for M1 Light Industrial District to C2 General Commercial District. And for the property is portion southwest quarter, northeast quarter, southeast quarter, northwest quarter, northeast quarter, southwest quarter, northwest quarter, southeast, less highway right-of-way, section 32, township 155, range 82. We'll just go to the property address is 3100 Highway 52 South. That will turn it over to staff for findings and report.
Chairman Offerdahl, members of the commission. That long list is why we are in a preliminary and major plat. It is unplatted property, therefore we have to go into a major plat to create a subdivision. Its legal description will become much easier to read after the subdivision is complete. So what we see here is our subject property bound in black and our notification area in pink, 600 feet. It is southeast of Minot in our extraterritorial zoning jurisdiction. Again, we are just looking at a property line adjustment. However, the properties have different zoning designations. One is general commercial, one is M1 light industrial. So that brings us into a zoning map amendment. Here we can see Post 1 Properties Addition preliminary plat. The legal description will change to Lot 1 and Lot 2 of Post 1 Properties Addition. In the future, if we're doing this job, if we do anything here again, we won't have to go through that list. As you can see, a portion of the property is zoned C2. The rest of the property is zoned M1 light industrial. Adjacent, we have ag zoning, R1, R3, and rural residential. The future land use designation for this area is light industrial. You have rural residential, ag and open space, and parks and recreation adjacent. Here you can see a aerial photography facing north, facing east, and facing south. Here is staff finding of fact. It can be found in the staff's written report. Planning Commission has the authority to hear this case and provide a recommendation to City Council whether it should be approved or denied with or without conditions. Staff does recommend that the Planning Commission adopt staff finding of fact and recommend approval to the City Council for a zoning map amendment from M1 light industrial to C2 general commercial. And Planning Commission recommend approval of the preliminary plat for Post 1 Properties Addition without conditions. And with that, I will stand for questions.
Thank you. Any questions for city staff? Vice Chair Bauman.
Sorry to take up your time again. Obviously, when we put a C2 property next to an R1 property, there's some rights that R1 property owner gets by being abutting a more intense zoning district. But am I correct to assume that because we're going from M1 down to C2, those protections for the R1 property owners are already in place? Or is this something that was grandfathered and is now kicking in? And if that's the case, what can those R1 property owners be expecting from the adjacent property?
Chairman Offerdahl, Vice Chair Bauman, those protections would have already been in place. M1 is also a more intense district. The property as it's developed now is probably legal non-conforming and was not required to install a buffer yard at the time of construction. However, any future development would require buffering against the residential properties.
So if there is any changes to the use, if they add an extra building, if they expand anything, those residents to the south should be expecting buffering, trees, landscaping, light protection, sound protection to be added to the site?
Chairman Offerdahl, Vice Chair Bauman, that is correct.
Thank you.
Any additional questions for city staff? Okay, seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. Anybody who wish to speak on behalf of this agenda item? Anybody who wish to speak in opposition to this agenda item? Anybody for or against? Okay, seeing none, we will close the public hearing, turn it over to commissioners for a motion.
I'd move that we approve the staff findings and facts.
Second.
Okay, so we had a motion to approve by Commissioner Amick and a second by Commissioner Goodman. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Bauman,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes.
Pontanila,
Yes.
Trudell,
Yes.
Amick,
Yes.
Ziegler,
Yes.
Reich,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Goodman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 5.4, public request hearing by Rob at Ackerman Surveying, representing Four Seasons Construction, owners for a request of a preliminary plat zoning map amendment from AG to R1S, single-family residential district with small lot flexibility and planned unit development, PUD. Legal description for the property is southeast quarter less than north 40 feet, section 1, township 155, range 83 of Stonebridge Farms, first and fourth editions. The property address is unaddressed or unassigned at this time. That will turn it over to staff for finding and report.
Chairman Offerdahl, members of the commission, Again, we find our subject property bound in black and the notification area, 600-foot notification denoted in pink. The proposed is a subdivision plat, and this is a fairly large subdivision plat. So this would become Stonebridge Farms 8th edition. As you can see, there are several blocks and multiple lots within this subdivision. This will be built out in phases over the next few years with the goal of completing the Stonebridge Farms subdivision entirely. Along with this is a PUD plan. So this is a new type of housing that Four Seasons Construction is proposing to bring to Minot. They would essentially be detached townhomes. So these would be small single-family homes detached with the minimum fire setback of 5 feet setback for each building, meeting 10 feet between each building, with 26 proposed lots for this type of construction. These would provide affordable, single-family, detached homes that the builder believes will be more popular than twin homes, but would fit into that same kind of price point. Here we can see their proposed lot layout details. So the corner lot does have a larger setback. However, they are requesting their own specific setback set for these properties. That's the 5 foot. Currently in a residential zone, it is 6.5 feet setback. So they are requesting specific setbacks of 20 feet off the front, 5 feet off of each side, and 5 feet in the rear. So this is just laying out the plan for detail. So this would be a planned construction. They would have to meet these entitlements and only these entitlements. So I'll remind the commission that planning PUDs have a great deal of flexibility on the front end and almost no flexibility on the back end. So they are asking for very specific entitlements for these properties. So from here on out, they will be locked into this design without returning here and asking for a zoning map amendment and all kinds of other things. We have taken some PUDs off in the past. However, it's process. So they are asking for very specific entitlements here to try a new housing type. I will tell you that with the cost of housing and the need for housing and the need for affordable housing and that missing middle that we have for housing and just the ability of those young families to be able to afford to buy their first home, staff is excited about this, and we are hopeful that this will be successful and that we will see these types of projects throughout the city. They could lead to a type of housing that would actually be affordable for those young couples, 1 or 2 kids just starting out, who want to own their own property, but they just can't afford to get into, $400,000 new construction 4-bedroom house. That's just not within their means. This could provide an avenue to home ownership. It would also create a significant increase in housing stock and take a bite out of some of those houses that we really need to get built around here with several large projects looming in the future. The current zoning of the property is ag. There's all kinds of zoning adjacent. We have some M1, some public, some R1, R2, R3, R4, and rural residential. With this map, I did want to point out that those areas that are zoned public, on the south side, that is for stormwater drainage, but that very large publicly zoned property in the middle is a large park that is currently developed, walking trails throughout. The reason I'm bringing this up is because those are small lots and they are small yards. And so there is available open space within walking distance of these homes for kids to ride their bikes, play on playgrounds, and have area to run and roam that besides the small yards that are proposed with these.
Can we actually go back a few slides because we don't see that? Okay.
So the proposed lots are up there along 36th Avenue and Mulberry Loop. So as you can see that park is really only, we'll say 2 city blocks away. It's this block in this subdivision, but these are large blocks. But if your average city block in town, you're about 2 blocks from the park.
And you're talking about on the southwest corner of this slide is the park?
No, the park would be
large
just
area.
south of the small lots in that large lot in there.
Okay, like just south of Mulberry Loop.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The ones down in the southwest, those are open space, and I suppose kids could run around in there, but it is stormwater drainage is its
Yeah.
purpose, not necessarily open space. However, I'm sure that doesn't stop the kids from running around in there and playing.
Thank you.
So this request does fall within our comprehensive plan for the area, which is suburban residential. We also have public and institutional, parks and recreation, urban residential, light industrial, rural residential, suburban residential, and light industrial in the area. I guess the park's probably a little bit easier to see in this slide. It is that green just south of where they're proposing these houses to be built. And in this slide, in the aerial facing north here, you can actually kind of see the playground. It would be, these row homes would be up along that 36th Avenue, and that little park is just down there in the bottom left-hand corner of the slide here. And then this is the central part of the property and the southern part of the property. On the left-hand side there, you can see just the edge of that stormwater pond that falls within that publicly zoned area over there. Here is staff finding of fact. It can be found within staff's written report. Planning Commission has the authority to hear this case and provide a recommendation to City Council on whether it should be approved or denied with or without conditions. Staff does recommend that the Planning Commission adopt staff finding of fact and recommend approval to City Council for the preliminary plat, a zoning map amendment from R1S Single Family Residential with small lot flexibility to R1S Single Family Residential District with small lot flexibility and a planning unit development overlay as provided in Exhibit 2 and the PUD plan with the following conditions. Any portion of the property that does not comprise the lot specifically called out in the PUD plan is not part of the scope of approvals and must follow all requirements of the underlying zoning district for which the property resides. The development will comply with all site plan review and approval requirements as established by the engineering department for all permanent improvements as is standard development policy. Housing styles and locations will conform to the site plan as included in the PUD plan and attached in Exhibit 2. With that, I will stand for questions.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
Did the developer give any kind of idea what the price point would be for the PUDs?
Chairman Offerdahl, Commissioner Parker, I believe that just under 300,000 is what you were aiming for the price point on these homes. Just under 300. Yes.
Why don't you, Mr. Hayes, why don't you come up to the podium and answer the question if you would? Thank you.
Yeah, we're looking at the price range of between, hopefully 270, 280. What we did was took cut the lots in half that we originally had platted for there, just to get some type of more affordable rather than the $450,000, $500,000 homes that will more than likely be in the rest of it. This concept, I think, will be a fairly good model to go by in the future. Everybody asks about housing. How are we going to get affordable housing? Well, this is kind of a start to that on the new development side.
Okay, well, why don't we just go ahead and officially open the public hearing, being he's up speaking on the behalf, so we'll consider this a public hearing, and if you do have questions for Mr. Hayes or city staff at this time, that would be perfect. Vice Chair Bowman.
I do, if I can, and I want to start first of all by saying good job to our city staff and to everyone who was involved in kind of helping being able to bring this forward. I know this is a need and a concern that's been around for a really long time, and I've gotten to see behind the curtain just a little bit in terms of how some of these agreements and arrangements and how our team worked to get from no or not right now to yes, this is the right time. And so I appreciate the hard work that went into all of that. One of the concerns that I have, or maybe frustrations, is not necessarily with the lot size. It actually has a little bit more to do with just general design of the PUD. When I travel to other communities, I see similarly dense areas that have, for lack of a better term, a pedestrian valve, if that makes sense. So where we have basically the entire development could be fenced off to the outside roads. There'll be maybe one area in a corner that just allows for pedestrian access to move along the property line, or a 6 or 10 foot, probably 10 foot pedestrian easement in there, or public easement for a sidewalk to move in there. This is kind of a question to staff, but also to Mr. Hayes. Do we have the flexibility to require that, to add that, to basically turn this from a completely walled off development into having a few more points where walkers and bikers and kids and families can kind of move without having to go all the way out and then all the way around just to get back to behind their house or something similar?
Yeah, there are multiple ins and outs of streets. I believe there's 1, 2, 3, 4 access points within. And why we structured the smaller lots where we did, if you look at the map, they're not visible from the bigger lots and the more expensive homes. We kind of have them hidden, that none of the other lots face those. We didn't want to go in and create a whole bunch of little tiny lots in there and destroy the rest of the neighborhood that's been built over the years. You know, we wanted to keep that concept and then put a little bit of the smaller concept. But yeah, none of the smaller, the PUD area faces any of the larger lots. And there's sidewalks throughout the entire development and multiple access points right directly across the street to the park.
Okay. I think we're getting closer. When I look at the existing Stonebridge Farms development, I see that there are some public right-of-way accesses where, again, you can kind of go maybe 7 or 8 homes. There's a sidewalk, and then another 7 or 8 homes along the road. Will there be anything like that in the proposed development?
There won't be walking paths. It'd just be the city sidewalks.
Okay. Sounds good. So my question then to staff, is that something that, as commissioners, I love this, and I'm going to support it if I can't do anything with it, but I'd love to see, again, a pathway more than just the one road that's through it north-south.
Chairman Offerdahl, Vice Chair Bauman, you could make a recommendation to City Council that they add that as a condition.
Okay.
But when staff assessed this, we looked at the existing Stonebridge Farms, and it's just the section that's being developed isn't that wide. We felt like pedestrian access via sidewalk was close enough to the multi-use trails, and that public amenity requirements had already been exceeded within the existing subdivision to warrant a planned unit development with increased density like this, and that increased density is something that the American Planners Association is always encouraging planners to seek through their subdivisions. We kind of felt that the public benefit already existed, then we didn't need to require additional with the short distance of the existing pedestrian shed to the public amenities. However, as the Planning Commission, you guys can choose to, recommend to the City Council that they add additional conditions to this plan.
Thanks.
And also by requiring additional services, you might say, that's what drives the price of the lots up. And, we'd love to do that. Do we have the ability? Yes. If we tack, it all comes back to the end user for the pricing. And this, I'm not in it for, you hate to hear that, I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it for the next generation to build these, my stepson. So, to allow him something to build. Any other questions?
Any other questions? Mr. Hayes, public hearing is still open. We may call you back up if we have some more questions.
you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak on behalf or in opposition to this agenda item? Anybody wish to speak on behalf, opposition? Okay, seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and we'll turn it over to commissioners for a motion.
I move to approve based on staff's finding of facts and recommendations.
I second.
Okay. Motion to approve by Commissioner Pontanilla and second by Commissioner Trudell. Any discussion? Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Bauman,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes.
Pontanila,
Yes.
Trudeau,
Yes.
Amick,
Yes.
Ziegler,
Yes.
Reich,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Goodman. Yes. Motion carries.
Okay, moving on to personal appearances. I believe we have not had any cards turned in, so no personal appearances this month. We'll move on to agenda item number 7, miscellaneous and discussion items. Do we have anything to discuss?
June meeting.
Oh, we do have a miscellaneous item. The June meeting, Tuesday, is the election day. Polls are open for city council and other local elections. We are recommending that we make a motion or have the commission make a motion to either move it to Monday or Wednesday. Both, this chamber is open and available for both days. So
Do we have a date on that by chance?
8th or the 10th.
8th or
the
the
8th or
10th?
the 10th instead of the 9th, which is like election day. So we really hate to hold these types of public meetings when the polls are open. We feel like people have, like, you've got a limited amount of time. You go to work, you got to vote. We want to encourage people to go out and vote. So having them have a meeting that they may or may not have a hearing at or have a stake in could deter them from doing one or the other.
I think it's really important to keep conflicts with voting and being able to exercise that right down to a minimum. I cannot do the 10th or the 9th, but I can do the 8th.
Okay, what is the wishes of the commission? Anybody else have conflicts? Obviously, we need everybody to be here for a quorum.
The 8th would work better for me.
Same.
Same with me
Okay.
as well.
So I'll go ahead and make a motion that we move the June meeting to Monday, June 8th at 5:30 p.m. in Chamber Councils.
I'll
Council
second that.
Chamber. There we go.
And then, Commissioner Parker, did you second that?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay. So we had a motion by Vice Chair Bauman and a second by Commissioner Parker. Any further discussion on this?
I probably won't be here.
All right. I don't know if we got to call the roll, but we'll call the roll.
Bauman,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes.
Pontanila,
Yes.
Trudeau,
Yes.
Amick,
Yes.
Ziegler,
Yes.
Reich,
Yes.
Parker, Goodman. Yes. Motion carries.
Okay.
Say thank you to Hannah for catching that.
Any other additional miscellaneous discussion items? Okay, with that, we'll move on to item number 8, adjournment. Meeting is adjourned.